Hey y'all, it's Bear, and today I'm here to tell you about books that made me throw up. As much as I like gore in my literature and my film, I find that a lot of the books I read aren't super, extremely gory, gore porn, like torture porn, Saw, Hostel, stuff like that. I like books with moments of gore. I'm going to be talking about these 5 books one at a time, telling you what grossed me out. There's going to be spoilers for each one, so I will leave timestamps you can skip over if you haven't read a certain book. The Taking of Jake Livingston is a YA paranormal horror about a teen medium who can see ghosts in their death loops. And basically, he starts to become haunted by the ghost of a former school shooter named Sawyer. Jake has to figure out how he can stop Sawyer from possessing him and taking over his body and continuing his real murder spree, because even though Sawyer's a ghost, he is still killing off people that he didn't get to during the initial school shooting. But there's a little period in this book where the horror just amps up to 15. There's a scene in the book where Jake and his friends go to steal Sawyer's journal from his house and see if they can figure out what's making Sawyer tick, what's the whole situation there. While Jake is in the shower, Sawyer appears, starts acting really creepy. The bugs start crawling out of Jake's ear, and his ears start bleeding as spiders are crawling out of it. There's roaches coming up from the drain that are covering him. Sawyer's saying all of this fucked up stuff. We flash forward a little bit further to the actual journal entry where we find that Sawyer's uncle has been sexually assaulting him, trying to rape him, and it gets so fucked up. It made me so uncomfortable. I was gagging and having to cover my mouth whenever the bugs were crawling out of the ear. And then you get to the sexual assault portion, which is not explicit. Nothing happens on page. And it ends with Sawyer's mother shooting him in the shoulder. That whole portion of the book just had me so ooh, I was gagging. It was getting a physical reaction from me. Then we have Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica, and this one is kind of a dystopian horror. There's a plague, right, that sweeps across all the animals. It's this disease that makes them go feral and rabid, and basically they're not safe for human consumption anymore. So in order to adapt to that, instead of just going vegan, the government's oh, it makes total sense that because humans are not affected, we can just breed them specially to make food. So our protagonist in this book is kind of the leader of this processing plant where humans are taken in and killed and processed in order to make meat. The day that I started this, Will, my fiance, decided that we were going to have hamburgers for dinner. And Will likes to make his hamburgers a little on the rare side. So I was reading the book, and I get to a scene where people are visiting other people's processing plants, right? And they're having a barbecue to celebrate someone's promotion or whatever. They specifically mention that they are eating the meat of a child. Then there are scenes of animal abuse in this where teenage boys are killing puppies because, like I said, all of the animals in the world are supposedly infected by this plague. So they light a puppy on fire, they smash a puppy's head against the wall, they're throwing him up in the air and hitting him with baseball bats. It's so I had to put the book down and go to bed. I was I can't keep reading this right now. In this book, the people that are bred for consumption, they call them heads. So our protagonist is gifted a head for oh, look at you, job well done, whatever. And he starts a sexual relationship with her. And then at the end of the book, she's giving birth. He calls his wife and says, hey, you're a former nurse. I need you to come here and not judge me based on what you see. So they help the head give birth and then promptly kill her. So the whole time it was just I got her pregnant so that we could have a kid just so I could murder her. This fucking book. I had to close that book several times and say what the fuck am I reading? Why am I doing this to myself? And why did the internet make me think that this was going to be a good idea? Fantastic book. Very fucked up, very scary. Got physical, real reactions from me. But y'all, my heart fell out of my asshole a couple times reading that. Next we have The Changeling by Victor Laval, and in this one we're following a man who is dealing with the aftermath of his baby's murder. Plot twist, the one who murdered his baby was his wife. So we believe that the wife murdered the baby because of postpartum depression. But it turns out that the baby is actually a changeling, a fairy, fae little creature, and that the real baby was taken away. The gross part comes later in the book whenever our protagonist finally realizes that oh, it is the fae, and my wife did not just murder our son, like she had reason to do this, but he is like, I need to see what's in the coffin. I need to see what we buried. So he goes to the cemetery with his friend and they dig up the coffin. And the way that Victor Laval describes like what's inside, like what the baby actually is really gross. The thing that is pretending to be the baby is like, it looks like a wasp's nest made of hair that's filled with like bones and teeth and like jagged spiky things, and it grossed me out really bad. Its mouth opens and it spews out these like roaches, and it's just ugh. Then we have Guillo by Junji Ito. So for me, it wasn't so much the story as it was the visuals that I will show you the art in here that bothered me. This one follows a couple who's having this kind of like romantic-y island getaway, but while they're there, there's something that smells bad. They keep complaining about the stink. It turns out that there's like these scuttling leg things that are infecting the corpses of dead fish and also sharks, because there's a shark in here. I love that. So that's the shark. And these are like the leg things that are, you know, possessing them. You learn that it's in the water, so it's affecting people. You can see that like the stench makes you bloat up and expel this gas and basically kills you from the inside out. Here's like a pile of dead bloated corpses that are all connected together by this machine. Guillo was just freaking disgusting, and I want to reread it, but I don't know that I can without like actually properly throwing up again, because this one did make me throw up. Like, put the book down, go to the bathroom, puke, come back and read it. And finally, we have one that's a little more like personal to me, and that's Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. And this one is not necessarily gory or graphic. I mean, it is, because there are scenes later in the book that involve like incest and cannibalism, and that's a lot. That's not necessarily the parts that like made me feel sick. This book follows a girl who believes that she is an alien, and she believes that her stuffed hedgehog friend is going to take her and her cousin, who she's in love with, to like their alien planet home. So because of this, you know, obviously a lot of the book is an allegory for like mental health stuff and trauma and like what it's like to be like a fucked up kid and having to have coping mechanisms. But a little bit later in the book, when our protagonist is like more of like a 12-year-old, I believe, to like a teenager, she is sexually assaulted, she's molested by her tutor, and in her head, she's just like, she's seeing it all happen from above. She's disassociating. She's looking down at herself being basically raped by this older man. And she's like, oh, I have a new superpower. I can leave my body. Someone who has been sexually assaulted and disassociates very frequently and uses dissociation as a trauma response and a coping mechanism, reading that and realizing that this little girl in this book is going through the same thing that I go through as a 24-year-old adult, but use it as a superpower. The whole book, especially that last bit with like the cannibalism stuff, it's a lot, but it did not bother me anywhere near as bad as reading the perspective of a child having a trauma response to being molested by a pedophile, and then just being like, oh, look at me, I'm a superhero, this is my new alien power. Just thinking about this book really, really, like, deeply affects me. But that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you can let me know by liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the bell, all that good stuff downstairs, as well as answering the comment question of the day. Comment question of the day. I want to know, has a book ever gotten a physical reaction out of you like this? Has a book ever made you feel sick, throw up, be nauseous, etc.? And if you don't have time, you don't have the spoons, or you don't have an answer, you can let me know you made it all the way until the end of the video by leaving me a smiley face emoticon or a yellow heart emoji. All my social media links will be downstairs for you to go check out, as well as places to support me further on other platforms, my Amazon wishlist, my Patreon, etc. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful, whatever it is, wherever you are. I will see you tomorrow with another video. Thank you for watching. Okay, cool. Bye.